imbued with the scent of pine resin, landed on the pristine snow, appearing exceptionally striking. In just 5 seconds, crack! With a sharp sound, the bullseye's pine tree slowly toppled, crashing into the snow and sending up a cloud of white mist. This is the power of industry. Jiangli shook her quivering wrist, a satisfied smile gracing her lips. Without this chainsaw, using an ordinary iron axe to fell such a frozen, solid tree would have taken at least 20 minutes, leaving her drenched in sweat. Yet in extreme cold, sweating was a grave mistake. If the moisture soaked through her undergarments, it would rapidly sap her body heat once she ceased movement, which could be fatal. Jiangli did not pause. She was acutely aware that the chainsaw was a significant power consumer. Although she carried 2 high-capacity spare batteries, every bit of power needed to be conserved until she found a way to recharge. She had to gather as much wood as possible before the batteries ran out. Vroom vroom. At the forest's edge, the chainsaw's roar shattered the deathly silence of the icy expanse. Jiangli resembled a tireless lumberjack machine. In addition to felling trees, she had to remain vigilant of the deep snow pits beneath her feet and the biting cold wind that occasionally seeped in through her collar. Her stamina depleted more rapidly than anticipated. In frigid conditions, the human body consumes heat at an accelerated rate to maintain its temperature. Coupled with walking in the snow, each step required 3 times the effort compared to solid ground. Gradually, Jiang Li's breathing grew laborious, and the white vapor she exhaled crystallized into frost at the edges of her goggles. Virum. Finally, after cutting into what felt like an endless number of tree trunks, the chainsaw sound suddenly weakened, the chains snagging in the wood and refusing to move. The red light flickered. Out of power, Jiang Li forcefully extracted the chainsaw, regretfully patting its body. Well done, old friend. She straightened her back and surveyed her surroundings. The fallen pine trees lay scattered across the snow, a testament to her success. She counted silently, a total of 23 trees. But a dilemma soon arose. Due to the system's designation, the fallen trees were classified as natural resources that did not belong to Jiang Li, failing to meet the backpack storage requirements, and thus could not be stored. She would have to drag them back to the camp. Jiang Li attempted to pull the nearest pine tree. Heavy, incredibly heavy. Freshly cut, wood was saturated with moisture, and with the branches caught in the snow's resistance, Jiang Li felt as if she were dragging a dead weight. Huh. She gritted her teeth, binding the trunk with rope, securing it over her shoulder, leaning forward as she moved step by step back. The distance from the forest's edge to her bonfire camp was a mere 50 meters, yet it felt like an insurmountable chasm. When she finally dragged the 4th tree back to the bonfire, she was on the verge of collapse. Her legs felt leaden, and her lungs burned painfully, a reaction to the cold air. I can't go on. I must not overextend myself. Jiang Li resolutely abandoned the thought of continuing her transportation efforts. Although the remaining 19 trees were tempting, without a moment's rest to replenish her energy, she might collapse in the snow. She plopped down beside the large wooden crate used for storing initial supplies. The distance to the campfire was less than a meter. The orange flames danced, radiating an intoxicating wave of warmth. The sensation of alternating heat and cold made Jiang Li shiver involuntarily. She removed her goggles and thick gloves, placing them aside to warm, then, trembling, retrieved a bottle of mineral water from her backpack and took a small sip. Next came the 2 blocks of dense black bread, resembling bricks. With a crunch, Jiang Li laboriously bit into a piece. Its coarse texture was akin to chewing sawdust, laced with a hint of bitterness. Yet this was a life-saving source of carbohydrates. She forced herself to chew it slowly, swallowing it down. As the food settled in her stomach, warmth began to spread, and her body ceased its uncontrollable shivering. After finishing half a piece of bread, Jiang Li leaned against the wooden crate, her eyelids growing heavy. After such extreme fatigue, drowsiness washed over her like a tidal wave. The crackling campfire seemed to grow distant, accompanied by the sounds of the wind and snow. How she longed for a moment of slumber. Just as she was on the brink of losing consciousness, her survival instinct jolted her awake. She pinched her thigh hard and glanced at the countdown above the campfire. Shelter level 1 remaining campfire time. 6 hours and 28 minutes, 6.5 hours. When she slept too soundly and the campfire extinguished. Not to mention that in this world of sub-zero temperatures, without a heat source, she would perish in her sleep from hypothermia. The game rules stipulated that once the campfire timer expired, it would be deemed a fatality. I cannot sleep, absolutely cannot sleep. Jiang Li slapped her cheeks, mustering the strength to stand. Although it was warm beside the campfire, she did not remove her heavy work uniform. She had read an article explaining that in the late stages of hypothermia, the hypothalamus malfunctions, creating a false sensation of warmth, leading to the irrational act of disrobing, ultimately resulting in death by freezing. First, I must process these 4 trees I've brought back and ensure the campfire's continuation. Jiang Li rummaged through the toolbox and pulled out a traditional handsaw. Looking at the 4 sturdy pine trees on the ground, she couldn't help but smile wryly. Without a chainsaw, simply dismembering these trees into pieces small enough to fit into the fire would likely consume more than half an hour and exhaust her dwindling energy. But for the sake of survival, she had no choice. Kneeling on the ground, she aimed the saw blade at the trunk, preparing to pull with all her might. Suddenly, a soft white light emanated from the system panel on her chest, enveloping the logs on the ground. Ding! Detected complete logs within the shelter's vicinity. Would you like to perform quick recovery? Jiang Li's hand, grasping the saw, froze midair. Quick recovery? She paused momentarily before a wave of euphoria surged within her. Yes, recover, she fervently thought. In the next instant, a miraculous scene unfolded. The 4 pine trees, which had been lying on the ground and required effort to saw and trim, disintegrated in a flurry of pale blue light. They did not turn to dust, but transformed directly into neatly cut, uniform logs that automatically stacked themselves in her backpack. Even the previously useless twigs and leaves seemed to vanish, as if purified by the system. Recovery successful. Acquired. Ordinary wood X20. Jiang Li's eyes widened, gazing at the pile of standard logs that appeared freshly cut from a lumber mill. 1 tree yields 5 units of wood, and I don't even have to saw it myself. This was nothing short of fantastic news. This meant she only needed to handle the cutting and transporting. Once within the camp's range, these resources would be deemed hers, allowing direct recovery, thus bypassing the most time-consuming processing stage. Jiang Li swiftly selected 5 logs and tossed them into the campfire. Boom! The flames engulfed the dry pine wood, leaping half a meter high. Fuel added. Remaining campfire time, 12 hours and 20 minutes. 5 logs equal 5 hours. Jiang Li glanced at the remaining 15 logs on the ground, rapidly calculating in her mind. If she threw in the rest, it would add another 15 hours. That would total 27 hours. This meant that even if she collapsed into a deep sleep now, the fire would not extinguish upon her awakening. A sense of security enveloped her. In that moment, Jiang Li finally experienced a long-lost feeling of safety. She selected all the remaining wood and chose to deploy them. Watching the countdown transform into a reassuring 27:20:00, her taut nerves finally relaxed. She could no longer hold on. Dragging the tool-laden box to shield herself from the wind, she wrapped herself in a thick coat, donned her hat, and leaned against the warm wooden crate, surrendering to sleep amidst the crackling sounds of the campfire. When she opened her eyes again, Jiang Li had not slept for long. The sky remained a murky white, indistinguishable between morning and afternoon. She checked the system time. She had only slept for 3 hours, though her body still bore some soreness, particularly in her shoulders and arms. Feeling as though they had been hammered, her spirit had revived significantly. She moved her stiff neck and stood up. The snowfall seemed to have lessened. The once-dense flurry of goose-feather snow had transformed into sporadic snowflakes. Jiang Li consumed some food to regain her strength before stepping outside the protective radius of the campfire. However, the state of the campfire was evidently different from her usual understanding. It was not that the temperature decreased with distance, but rather there existed an invisible air wall within a certain range of the campfire. Inside this air wall, warmth prevailed outside, the cold winds howled. As she wandered nearby, the biting cold returned. She attempted to walk further away, but soon halted. Apart from the grove, nothing else was visible, possibly buried beneath the snow. Without snow boots, there's no need to venture too far. Jiang Li cast a regretful glance at the distant expanse of white. One must not be overly greedy first. I must retrieve those 19 trees. Jiang Li turned, her gaze fixed on the small grove not far away, where her previous spoils lay. If the system could recover them, all she needed to do was drag the trees into the circle centered around the campfire to realize their worth. Let's get to work. Jiang Li rubbed her hands together, brimming with renewed vigor. For the next several hours, Jiang Li transformed into an indefatigable laborer, dragging, returning to camp, recovering, and setting off again. Although the process was monotonous and exhausting, witnessing the stacks of logs morph into data that entered her backpack was a sense of accomplishment beyond words. When the last pine tree was dragged into the luminous circle and vanished in a flash, Jiang Li collapsed onto the ground. She opened her backpack interface. The once empty slots now housed a neatly stacked array of wood icons. Item: ordinary wood quantity, 80. Description: the most fundamental survival resource, usable for burning or construction. 80 units. Combined with the wood already burning in the campfire, her day's labor yielded a total of 100 units of wood, calculating based on 1 unit burning for 1 hour. Jiang Li gazed at the flickering flames, excitement shimmering in her eyes. 100 hours. A full 4 days and nights, and a time when everyone else was engulfed in panic. Weeping and pleading for ways to survive the interminable first night, she, Jiang Li, had already amassed a sufficient supply of fuel to burn for 4 days. This meant that in the forthcoming 4 days, as long as she wished to live, no one could extinguish her flame. Jiang Li retrieved a bottle of mineral water from her backpack, which seemed to possess an independent space, for the water remained warm. Upon taking a sip, she found that this bland mineral water, at that moment, bore a hint of sweetness. Next, I must contemplate how to transform this mere open campsite that offers only shelter from the wind into a true home. Jiang Li mused, her gaze falling upon the upgrade button for the campfire. With just a few more stones, coal, and iron, she would be able to enhance the campfire. Chapter 3. The Timber Tycoon. The tempest raged outside, yet within the warm embrace of the campfire's radius, the air felt remarkably balmy. As if the biting wind could not breach its sanctum, Jiang Li reclined against a weathered wooden crate, her fingers clenched around a half-consumed bottle of mineral water. Lowering her gaze, her thoughts stirred, and the pale blue system interface unfurled before her once more. It was only at this moment that she found the tranquility to delve into this so-called survival system. in addition to her personal attributes and inventory.